Hi, everybody. Welcome back to ASIS TV, SecurityGuardRadio.com, and Podcast 2008. Dutch Schwartz, ForcePoint.com, one of my favorite companies. What's going on, my friend?
Chuck, good to see you again. Yeah, so we have two hot topics that we're focusing on at Black Hat this year. So kind of to frame this up, the first one is what Gartner calls cloud to edge, and that's the idea that you need to bring services and transport mechanisms closer to where that user is. There was a really interesting post the other day by Chris Roberts, who's a pretty well-known hacker and speaker, and he talked about there's no perimeter, there's no edge anymore, and there's a lot of spirited debate about that. And while I agree with a lot of Chris's impetus behind that comment and where he's headed, what I would suggest is that we just have to redefine what the edge is. So what the edge is really, it's you, Chuck, it's your data, it's the information you have, it's your technology that you take with you. So you have to figure out, how do I get those services closest to that user and still secure that? And really the way that we're moving forward is what we call enterprise secure SD-WAN. So that's the concepts of software-defined networking, but you bring those to the WAN marketplace.
Now, I had this crazy idea for security, right? And I read something about this, and it probably is not directly related to you, but since my brain's not as big as yours,
sure.
I might get it wrong, right? You know, we had the hierarchy storage management back in the day, a dumb terminal, and nobody could hack that. That was great, right?
Right.
And now the cloud is the hierarchy storage management, in a way,
right.
But everybody can access it, right? Should we make silos? Should we say, you know what, does the national defense system need to be on the internet? Should we just make a little lake over here that's not connected really, and make it more secure? And that's an edge, isn't it? That's really a close edge.
Right.
If we break it up, is that going to make us any safer?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fun debate that we have kind of offline, right, about what's really secure, and that's, you know, sort of some type of IT device that's locked in a safe at the bottom of the ocean. You know? So I mean, that's really the only, and nobody has the key. So the challenge is that, right? So you really can't define if there ever was an edge or a border. There's really none today, and that's because as the economics move you to the cloud. There's a lot of good reasons to do that.
Right.
It's not just a cloud. We always sort of draw it on a whiteboard like it's one single cloud. It's not, right? So most people have their own cloud. They have some kind of combination hybrid cloud. And then if you use, let's just say simple services that most people have, O365, Workday, Concur, et cetera, those may be in multiple clouds. So the goal is, how do I bring that service to you as the user, wherever you live, but secure that? And so the concepts of software-defined networking allow you to do that, to say it doesn't really matter what mechanism you're using, what the transport is. I should be able to choose the most convenient, easy path and get it to you as quickly as possible while securing it. That's the trick.
Anything ForcePoint's working on in the future that's going to be something you want to foreshadow?
Yeah, I mean, so where we're headed, really the different parts of the technology within ForcePoint, what brings them all together is what we call the human point. That's that interaction point, right? And so when we look at how we design technology, it's with the humans in mind, because that's where you have to start, right? So there's going to be changing attack vectors and things like that, and it's really important to understand who are you and what's your behavior. That's really what we're trying to dig into.
We used to think it was about the device at first, and it's all about the behavior, nothing else.
That's exactly right. So what we have is analytics to look at what's your typical behavior, and let's say this. Let's say that on a given day that within our company you're risk level 1 and I'm a risk level 3 because I have access to different
data. Might be risk level 10, just to
10.
say, but anyway.
If we can look at your behavior and we'll see what's typical for you, then as that risk changes, we want to automatically change that risk score
now,
in real time.
Is that difficult to do now? Or is that a new thing people are working on?
Yeah, it's fairly new, and there's different approaches to that. So there was a great discussion yesterday on LinkedIn where the CISO for Lyft, Mike Johnson, weighed in. And the question was, with your SIM or UEBA, if you could have an automated response, would you want that? Right, and that's a really good question, right? So, and the debate was really around, you know, sort of a on or off, right? And so our approach to that is it's a graduated measure, right? So we have a scale of 1 to 5. You start somewhere based on your normal behavior, what you have access to, and then as your behavior changes throughout the day, we'll change that risk score. So it's not an on or off. It's oh, that's interesting. Chuck's doing something. Maybe he's traveling outside of his normal geography.
Yeah.
He's doing something different. So let me start with, it's not an off. Let me start with, maybe I just need to audit what he's doing. Now let me look at maybe encrypting. And if your risky behavior continue to change, then we might move you towards, you know, less access.
So let me put on my cop hat, because that's what I'm good at, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with what you're saying, because that's analytical, it makes sense, it's progressive, right?
Sure.
But let's say I'm a bad guy. Let's say I'm one of these sleeper cell bad guys, and I'm not talking any particular type, right? But I'm just the guy that says, you know what, I'm pissed off with the boss now.
Sure.
I'm going to do something because he's a disgruntled employee.
Right.
And now his behavior goes from 0 to 10 in one movement.
Right.
And that could be he goes to where is said, it could be he goes to whitehouse.com.
Sure.
And if we just gradually increase his risk, might we miss something that way?
Yeah, I guess in that scenario it's potentially possible. So what I'd say is the norm is more we see a series of behaviors, incremental behaviors.
Yeah.
But to your point, there's still a framework, right? So we still clearly define you should never have access to XYZ because you're in finance and that's just not a normal
That
place
part I
for you.
get, yeah.
So that would jump you then from, if you're normally a 2, that would jump you all the way to 5.
But that's thinking about somebody getting into the network and getting
That's
data.
true.
So what I'm talking about is how do we find an active shooter
Right.
based on that behavior? And I think we can. If
Yep.
we sit down together with physical security people, cybersecurity, and say, what is the behavior of an active shooter? One of the things is they socially withdraw.
Right.
They back right out of the workforce and don't talk to anybody. So maybe a decrease in somebody's network activity is like, wait a minute, that might be a shooter because he's withdrawing.
Sure. So one of the things that you can do is look at natural language, right? So we can really fingerprint you in a sense based on the language that you use, right? So if I look at the word choice you use, if I look at the adjectives, if I look at your chatter, to your points, right? Most people do. You see a change in their behavior if they're frustrated about something, right? And while it's not 100% lock that something's going to be negative out of that, it puts you in a space where you're more likely to be compromised, where something might happen to you. So then you would potentially look at that behavior more closely.
Dutch Schwartz, forcepoint.com. You got a booth number? You here at the booth today?
I don't remember the booth number off the top of my head. I just walked in.
You go find this guy. This is one of the smartest guys in the room. This is great discussion.
Great.
We're getting there to solving a lot of these behavior problems, and I think this is fascinating. So tune in another few minutes here on ASIS TV, securityguardradio.com. Back in a minute. Thanks for coming on the show. Fantastic. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Take us out.